Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you all being here. Got a couple council members who will be here shortly. Running a little bit late, but we've got a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started. I appreciate, first of all the cards, calls, emails, messages. As I wasn't here last month due to the death of my father, and again, I appreciate both the town support, family, friends, community leaders and constituents, all in one, just being supportive of our family. So again, I appreciate that, and I see our economic development folks here, and I appreciate the flowers and everything also from you all as well. So thank you so much. From our press and media, again, appreciate the pages and their support as well. So again, I can't say enough of how much I appreciate the support from this town during a difficult time. And again, I regret I wasn't able to be here last month, but glad to be back this month. I think Lynn must have just held off on a number of things because somehow my packet exploded, but it's all good. It's all good. So again, we'll go ahead and follow through with our agenda, and again, I'm sure the other council members will be here with us. So first thing I'll do is go ahead and ask if there are any adjustments to the agenda.
Thanks, Mr. Conley, for your patience.
Yeah. Any adjustments to the agenda? Okay. If none, then I'll ask for a motion to approve our agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion for you, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is made that we adopt the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes.
I got you next time.
Okay, glad you're here, Mr. Oxer. I was told that you would have been here earlier, but our town manager decided to hold you up a lot longer than you anticipated. So
His words, not mine.
yeah. So good you made it. So thank you for being here. Next item on our agenda is general business, council and myself. So I'll start with comments from Mr. Harris.
I only had a few. Glad to see that the crossing signs are back up on Wagner and they're staying up. I think you said they've been hit a couple times, but they're withholding the crashes on them. So they were moved back, I think, 4 feet, and it seems to be, it gives enough room to dodge them. Quit cutting the corners so much. I've actually had a couple people that I've talked to said they were glad to see them back out there. Especially when the kids cross that area, Thomas Street and West.
To your point, not to interrupt, and I apologize for speaking during your comments. We did speak with the gentleman at the school bus garage. They asked us to remove them. I told them we would not due to the safety of the children. That was paramount and first, and just echoing your comments, we have had numerous calls from parents and prior to the school week beginning wanting to know why they were not up. We did speak with DOT just to remind everybody. Last year we had several accidents with people not familiar with those. We did go out and test optimal location to make sure that the signs would be visible, but yet still be close enough to the crosswalk so that the crosswalks themselves would be marked so that they were there. Thank you, Councilman Harris, for pointing out that they were 4 foot behind the crosswalk itself, still visible so that the children would hopefully be protected. We did look at the alternative of putting them on the side streets with Chief Watson We had seen other locales to where they were put on the shoulder, and speaking with council, we want the optimal protection for the children, but also trying to be safety of the children and or adults using the crosswalks is paramount. But this is where we come up with that. I think he's the director of the busing, stated that he actually did go out and use a school bus and could make the turn safely with the bus, albeit difficult. And I said, the key being, you could do it safely, and he said, yes, he agreed that that turn could be done with school buses without hitting the sign. So we did get that confirmed, and thank you very much for your comments about
And
that.
I guess the day we were out there with you, Mr. Hinkle, looking at it, was, you talked to Paisley, the principal at the middle school, said that the buses shouldn't even be turning left out of Thomas Street anyhow. They're supposed to go to Era and go out that way. Ruffle to Era, not go straight across, turn left. It's only for turning right on Thomas. So he said the bus shouldn't even make that turn anyhow. When you asked them to check on it, so anyhow, glad to see them up, and it's good that they realize we're gonna do something for the safety of the kids. Even they knocked them down, we're putting them back. The other thing I want to make comments that I toured through the parks, not along the green, the grass is looking good, cutting it. Doug didn't think it was edged as good as I thought it would. It looked better than he did, but anyhow, the area looked really good out through there. So Emily's got a good crew working out there, and they're staying ahead on everything. And the other one is congratulations to the manager and staff for now we're up to $3.9 million for wastewater line upgrades and stuff that was definitely needed. So appreciate getting the grants and getting all the monies coming out of our elected officials, and that's one of the things we asked you to do when we brought you on. So thanks a lot. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Mr. Now?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple things. I hope that everyone had a happy and safe Labor Day weekend, and I hope they're enjoying our Iredell County Fair up here at the fairgrounds. But on a note of some serious things that unfortunately not exactly too happy with, on August 24th, 2022, approximately, I wish the chief could be here because he's the one that's probably going to have to answer this. At approximately 4:30 p.m., there was 8 cars, unmarked cars, undercover, and 1 Iredell County Sheriff's Office SUV. I just happened to be outside picking up my mail, and as of that was happening, assault weapons, mask coverings on their faces, approximately 15 officers from, I guess, 3 agencies, Homeland Security, Iredell County Sheriffs, and I do not know who the other agency was. They jumped out of cars coming from back, and this is in the Barrium Seasons Village where myself and Councilman Oxler live. Coming out of the cars, coming through backyards. At this point, there was a lady right next door backing out of her driveway with her 15 or 16-year-old daughter, and she was very, very upset. I mean, here you have police officers, assault weapons charging through their yards, and she was backing out of the driveway. Then there's another lady that was approximately two doors down. At that point, she was out there cutting her grass, and these people were very upset because of the situation that happened a couple of weeks ago with the drive-by shooting in that development. So I kind of get and understand that they were on edge, okay, and worried about their safety and, oh my God, what's going on now? There was no cooperation at all because I called our town manager, and in turn the town manager called our police chief, and they did not know anything about this raid. And I get it, because they come from a police background, and you can't notify neighbors, you can't notify certain people. But I believe our police chief should have had the courtesy and been notified, okay? Just him alone, okay, if that's the way they felt, okay? Because I get that loose lips sink ships. But, okay, our police department did not know anything about it. I mean, I'm sure if we do raids in Mooresville, if we do raids in Statesville, we notify the Iredell County Sheriffs. We notify the Mooresville Police Department. We notify the Statesville Police Department. It's just cooperation. It's how you do things. And again, I come from that police background. If the FBI, Homeland Security, Joint Terrorist Task Force did a raid where I worked in Brooklyn, they may not had, okay, a policeman from that specific precinct there, but they had a representative from the NYPD, and they knew about what was going on. So, again, we can't backtrack, okay, but I'd like to see cooperation and working to let people know what's going on, because the residents were upset and beside themselves, okay? And to this day, I still have not been able to found out what transpired there. I get that sometimes information can't be, but after 2 incidents with guns in the neighborhood, people are a little bit on edge. Do we want to maybe discuss this, or do we want to go on to my second?
Chief, you want me, or do you want to? How do you want?
On that, this raid was conducted by Department of Homeland Security. They have a task force, a deputy or two that are sworn with them. But the directives for the raids and all come out of DHS's command level. And I know this from experience when I worked at Arrow County, DHS, they don't always, even within that agency, you don't know what's going on. They're pretty tight-lipped about it. I also know that this is common with that one agency, or one of the agencies involved, that Statesville, Mooresville, and Troutman are never notified about. It's not anything we have asked. There's nothing we can, we don't hold any authority to prevent it or stop it. So it's just more a lack of cooperation, from one place to us. I've tried myself and contacted officers that I know there to try and get information. Some of them don't even know what it was about. So it's
They
basically.
were there, chief. I mean, Iredell County Sheriffs were there. I'm sure they didn't say, hey, you want to meet us here on
No.
Frost Avenue for a barbecue.
No, they don't, but they will not tell us.
Cooperation at the end of the day, okay, and this,
Yeah.
we've cooperated, and I just don't like 2 agencies coming into our town, okay, without even notifying you.
Oh, and I can tell you from pride that happens to the Statesville Police Department and the Mooresville Police Department. It's from that one agency.
At the end of the day, that don't work, in my opinion.
Oh, I mean, I'm not disagreeing, it's just we're limited on what we can do about it.
And I hope we repay the favor if we're ever given the opportunity.
Well, there may be an opportunity for us to share our thoughts and concerns with our state, U.S. Senator, and congressional member. Just to, let them know your, what you saw that day and our town concerns. And I'm sure Mr. Wyatt and I both can have the ear of the 2 of them, so.
Yes.
I mean, this was a full-fledged raid, okay? They were taking down the door with all the officers with masks on, so they couldn't be identified, and I get all that, okay? But it was not a safe situation for our residents within town, that were literally, the one lady was backing out of the driveway, the one lady was cutting our grass, and hey, I'm not 10 foot tall and bulletproof, but I was walking to the mailbox. At least I kind of had some experience with this and witnessed it, but never where I lived previous to here.
Which I know any SWAT raid, unless it's a hostage situation, if it's just a raid, the common practice I've seen at agencies in North Carolina, you hit the house, you don't go beforehand to the other houses, because then it creates a safety issue.
Well, they were driving, I wound up talking to, and I'm sorry to drag this on, but they were casing the neighborhood for approximately 2 weeks before, because some neighbors came to me after this happened and said, oh, a van was parked in my driveway when I came home from shopping, and they said they were looking for 147, and they were parked in 137. Or some pickup trucks was, And these were high-dollar pickup trucks, high-dollar vans. I mean, so, I mean, again, this was weeks in planning before they did this raid. And I'm just kind of upset and very unhappy that the cooperation at least wasn't given to you.
Yeah, well, and I mean, when I was called about it, you know, we had no idea when he
Oh,
called.
I called you.
And immediately when we started trying to reach out, you know, we weren't told anything. And
I-
still weren't told anything.
I like the mayor's idea.
Yeah.
Maybe we could reach out and, you know, I'm not looking for an apology, but cooperation at the end of the day. If you come back here and you do this, cooperate with you. You don't have to tell me. I don't have to tell the residents where I live, but at least let's have some answers.
Oh, I understand, sir.
Any other comment?
Well, just, the chief and I, once we were made aware of the situation, the chief sent an officer by, and the officer was told to move along. That didn't sit well with the chief or me. And going forward, we was given assurances that would not happen going forward, but that's certainly not cooperation that,
I witnessed their interaction with the Troutman Police Department, and you were right, sir. That didn't even last 30 seconds. Literally told, I mean, I was not there hearing it, but I don't know what you can say in less than 30 seconds, but he was told to move on.
right.
And again,
But we certainly will, and I expected a follow-up call that was, the chief or I was supposed to have been apprised, and that's not happened yet.
We'll make the appropriate communication to our US folks.
thank you. And my second thing is down here on the corner of 21 and Old Mountain Road, the car wash, I'm very happy to see that got cleaned up. The profanity graffiti got painted over, but, and again, so on social media, and I'm not a big follower on social media of whatnot, but I just want to express that this has been on my plate for the last 2 years that I've been on council, with code enforcement, with Lynn, and I get how long it takes to get things done here, and I understand. But I'm glad that we got that cleaned up, because it's certainly one of the biggest eyesores and complaints within our town residents and our county residents about that we take a lot of abuse about that we're not doing anything. Well, I can tell you that it's been on my plate, and it's very important to me that this is cleaned, and some of the other eyesores that we have in our town. And I'm not gonna play to the social media complaining, but it's important, and I'm glad we got it done. Thank you for the town or the volunteers, whoever cleaned it up.
Just to answer to that, there were several staff involved, and it has been a long time coming, but Mayor Pro Tem Hinkle, Councilman Harris, you and I, there's another one that's, even though it was not Main Street, that was as important, but on Goodman across from the ABC store, one that was much worse, if people get an opportunity to go by and see it. It's not complete yet, but that one is completely a more obvious one that's, the three of you all got to see. That's, I went by there this afternoon, and it's a complete transformation of that lot, but we are working on it, yes.
But I just want to make a statement to the social media people that saying the town is not doing, it's not, we are doing something about it, and it's not the mayor and the council's fault, because this has been brought up numerous times, except that it's been, the general public don't know that the mayor and the council are addressing these eyesore issues.
Yes, sir.
So, and I just want to let people know that it's something that we really do care deeply about and address. It's not we just push it down the road.
Yes, sir.
Anything
Thank you.
else?
That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thanks for hearing my rants.
That's all right. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Harris. I did inform the council and the public you would be here. Surprised Mr. Oxer beat you here, but yeah, welcome. I'll go ahead and, Mr. Oxer, any comment?
Sure, not much, considering I haven't been here the past couple weeks, but had a good time getting away. Did make it back in time for the ribbon cutting at the fairgrounds. Loads of people there, loads of vendors. Weather was great. Of course, we planned on taking the kids and some of the neighbors on Monday, and that literally got rained out. But we look forward to going back. So I think it's a great thing for our area, a great thing for our town, even if it is not a town event. Just to echo, and I guess to piggyback on what you were saying, with what happened in our neighborhood, it was brought to my attention by some of the neighbors. I'm very unnerved by what and how it transpired, and I look forward to having some further conversations with either chair of staff, town manager, police chief, about just how this transpires. If I'm not familiar with the protocol, I look forward to being brought up to speed, and if there's anything that we can do on our end, I am eager and willing to do it. It's very unsettling for our neighborhood, very unsettling for the citizens here to see something like that happen, basically just under the cloak of ignorance. Nobody knows what's going on, and it's none of your business, and move along. Does not fly with me. Probably should have led with that, not end on a bummer, but that's all I've got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Taken. Ms. Harris?
Let me bring some sunshine to this here.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad the kids had a first good week back to school. I know it's been hectic for a lot of the parents, but I'm just glad to see the schools working with everyone, even with the leadership changes down at the high school. Also was able to attend the ribbon cutting for the Outer County Fair, and I was able to take my children back the next night, and we were there for about 5 hours, and I was pooped. But they enjoyed themselves, so that is actually all I have to.
Great, thank you. Really don't have any other comments other than what I said earlier, which I apologize for you all. I again appreciate the calls, comments, folks who were actually present at my father's funeral. So again, thank you for that, and your condolences. Really, I've had a chance over the last week or so to travel a few different towns in and around North Carolina, and I appreciate being able to come back and hear from the good things that are going on in our town. So I appreciate that. Ms. Hinkle?
Well, as usual, I'm saying kudos to what's been said, except obviously the situation, I had heard about that. And it's, given this day and time, circumstances around law enforcement, what's going on with our schools, raids, drug cartels, even in small towns, I'm surprised that the secrecy seems to be there, that I don't understand quite why it's necessary, other than just pure arrogance. I understand that, as Eddie said, I understand the safety factor and the fact that you just can't go around spreading. It wouldn't be much of a raid if you put it in the newspaper or in social media or what have you. But you've got to respect the feelings of the neighborhood, people, and this does not bode well. Let's face it, law enforcement has an image problem with some people, and even when I would suspect you go into a neighborhood full of people that support the police and they do this, and they're really nonchalant about it and indifferent and arrogant about it, they're not helping their case. They're not helping their case. And I certainly hope that our federal representatives, state, senator, and congressman can get through to these people that that's just not the way to do business. They've got a job to do. It's a serious job, but there's somewhere there's got to be a little bit of a compromise and consideration for the neighborhoods that they're going into and the people that they're frightening. So, and I also kind of back up to what I want to piggyback on to what Eddie said about social media. There's a lot of times social media is all about instant gratification, and that's nice, but go to the fair if you're looking for instant gratification. But when you're doing town business work, you can't do that. You know, there are laws or rules we've got to follow. And yes, Eddie, you're exactly right. You know, you've been on that, and it goes back to even before you were coming on the council. And it's a situation, and there again, there's a story behind the story there that we push, but sometimes you push too hard, you're doing more damage to the town than if you kind of work with the person. And sometimes that includes us putting in a little bit of elbow grease from staff or volunteers. So, but again, they did a wonderful job. I sent thank you to the people involved, or some of the people involved after that happened, and thanked them for going above and beyond what they're really hard to do, their normal duties, but they did it, and it looks good. Goodman Street, saw it Sunday afternoon. I was about dropped out of my head. Rose was taking me around to kind of look at some things, and I can look while she drives. And when I came to that, wow. So thank you. There again, you know, it took a while, it took time, but it finally got done. And it took some pushing. Sometimes you can go in and, you know, hold out the carrot, and if the carrot doesn't work, then you got to use the stick. And sometimes, whatever the situation, that's what it takes, but as long as the job gets done. But again, it takes time, it takes time. I'm just looking to see the car, well, yeah, I mentioned all that. So, you know, thank you. Had a situation down in my neighborhood where a excavator was, while a certain family had their child in the hospital for a week, had an excavator stolen off their property, carried off, and unfortunately my wife and I were witness to it and didn't know it was happening. We thought it was something that was under contract for the town, or just a contract, you know, or something that somebody was doing. They were so bold and nonchalant about it that, you know, I saw them go down, pick it up and go out with it. And never thought until they came home from the hospital and said, "Did you see anything?" So anyhow, it's, you know, it's been an unnerving week, but it seems to be a lot of unsettling things going around in several neighborhoods. But with that, sir, I will pass it on to get the meeting started.
All right, great, thank you. We will now go into staff items. Mr. Watt?
To, excuse me, to echo a couple things that you all mentioned, the park's looking great. We have 3 part-time employees now. One of them started today. Several of you all will be familiar with Jay Murdoch. Retired a couple times in his normal jobs, but he has started his first day today with us. Jay Murdoch, Brent Bustle, and Bobby Deal are the 3 part-time employees. I would like to introduce Lou Borick to you all. Lou, feel free to introduce yourself. Don't speak with too much of an accent. Slow down. Eddie's the only one that can understand you if you talk more. But feel free to tell everybody about yourself.
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Lou Borick. I'm coming on as your Human Resources Director for the town. I'm from New York as well. Grew up in Long Island, so yes, I do have the accent. That doesn't mix with everyone, but I do work out pretty well here. Most of my life has been spent in the U.S. Navy or working with or for the federal government in multiple different capacities before coming this path. Moving into North Carolina. I've been here for about 3 years now. Coming with me, my brother's been here for almost 19 years now, and loving life. Live right here in Troutman. It's a great opportunity, I think, to build a Department of Human Resources here to kind of, you know, see how the town is growing and where we're going to have, you know, the stability and, you know, means to make the growth happen smoothly. So I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to working with them.
Nice shirt.
Thank you. I got the memo.
We appreciate Emily taking the time wearing a couple hats. She started a department that did not exist, as you all know, and has a foundation built there. Lou's previous direct job was not HR, even though he has a background in some HR affiliated type background. We hope to get him up to speed because of his background and educated in that role. But we certainly appreciate Emily and doing her full-time job, trying to get Lou up to speed with where we need him there. And we look forward to seeing where that takes us. The next thing is Lou actually applied for code enforcement, and we saw his resume and his background is where we thought maybe this will work for HR. Emily then returned the favor, and that somebody she has known for a few years who was looking for an opportunity with the town if we had any openings, and we had several. When he came in to interview for one of the openings, we thought, hey, he's actually a great fit for code enforcement. So he's going through those opportunities now, the background, and we hope to finish that up within the next day or so. And if everything goes there, great. We hope to extend him an offer and fill our code enforcement role by the end of the week. We are also going through our audit. We are learning some things in the audit that quite frankly has not been checked and or has been verified in the last couple years audit with the company that we had previously used. So it is a rigorous audit, and we are, Justin has been pulled in several different areas to get these documents that's required. All of staff is being interviewed or questioned for the first time ever in an audit process, which, if you think about it, makes total sense. If you're using any charge or ability to expend town funds, you should be involved in the audit process. So I'm glad to see that, and we are going through that process. I too attended the ribbon cutting with several people. We've had positive feedback for the most part from town citizens and those visiting our town. I have been out every day, even though the fair was officially canceled or closed after yesterday. I still went out and inspected our greenways and make sure we're staying good there. I'm also excited for one of our Troutman area people. Robert Little is the newly appointed South Iredell principal. We are looking for a good partnership from the town with South Iredell people. I've also gotten emails from a couple different people, such as the South Iredell Boosters person, to meet with us soon to see how we can maybe assist them as well. We hosted the pep rally, if I assume is the best way of what we call it. Community pep rally for South Iredell recently, and that's one of the things Emily and the police department helped them with. A good community turnout there. I'm appreciative of what Parks and Rec and the police did to make that a successful event. We coached Tabor and several other people. He's the JV coach up there. So I'm excited for what Principal Little, I guess I should call him his official title, is going to bring up to South Iredell and what that does for our community. That's all I really have on the staff item side to bring to you there. I'll be glad to go to number 2 if you're ready, Mayor.
I'm ready.
These will be real quick. We're postponing, if you all will allow us to, the speed hump policy decision. We did meet and discuss briefly, and we're still accruing information at this point. We do not see a reason to ask for or change anything, but we still are waiting some input from DOT before we come back with any official recommendations. So if you all will allow us, we would like to postpone a more discussion on the speed hump policy for another month, if that is okay with you all.
Any concerns, questions? Yep.
Same thing with our update on the remote participation policy. Mayor Pro Tem had asked one question specific in us discussing with our town Attorney Gary, Freda Bluestein, who has retired. At one point, she was somewhat limited, but if I understand it, she has pretty much deferred everything to new counsel now. And us discussing back and forth, she has wrote an article that was distributed last month to everybody on what it meant to have a remote meeting policy in her opinion. But there was also some responses telling us, hey, well, yes, you can do that if your town has a policy, and we do, but then what happens if we vote, and if that vote is challenged? You get into the well, what ifs and what abouts. And the Mayor Pro Tem asked, well, okay, if you did have a vote that a remote person was the deciding vote, and if that vote was challenged, and then the solution is, well, then you have another vote next month. Well, what if that person is then the deciding vote? I said, well, quite frankly, didn't ask that question. So it was like, okay, send our policy and then get an opinion. I have, and I have not gotten a response. So again, if it is okay with you all, and it's my understanding, as Gary also pointed out, the county commission may have been looking at either changing or modifying their policy. So I don't know that ours really is relevant as to whether they do or don't do theirs, but still, as the Mayor Pro Tem directed, I did send ours, and I'm waiting on a response that I still don't have. So if it's okay with you all, unless Gary has had anything to add different, and even if he does, I still don't have an answer to that question unless he got an answer. But I would like to postpone that discussion for another month as well, if that's okay with you all. Gary, did you get anything into? Is that okay with you all?
Any questions?
One thing we've not talked, I don't think we've talked about, but y'all can decide at some point, is you're no longer required to stream, but you may want to. That's for a little bit separate issue from remote participation.
I do agree with Gary on that. I do think that's a decision that we should make publicly. We had decided, because we have had several citizens ask, well, if we're doing live streaming of our meetings for agenda and for our town council meeting, we have a couple citizens that want to know why we don't do like planning and zoning board or board of adjustments. Well, we had made that decision some time ago. We just simply were not doing those. But I do agree with Gary, and I recall there being some old discussion of, just as a matter of record, that we liked having these done just as a courtesy, that these would still be there. But I certainly agree with Gary. It's good to have it on record that you all made a decision, even after it's not required, as to whether you wish to continue that or not.
Well, we've got invested the technology at this point. God forbid we ever go back to COVID lockdown, or there be it, but the technology's there, and it took us quite a while to get it where it's, you know,
Meager.
Yes, where it is.
where it is. And so just, I know there's still some challenges there, but I don't see Michael here tonight, but for a long time, Michael was, you know, kind of shepherding that for us. Just any additional challenges that you can foresee if we did keep it going?
The only thing I will say is Michael had spoke with another vendor, and we are still trying to make it better. And I certainly do agree with what was said previous. We still should enhance it if we can, and still try to provide that to our citizens would be my suggestion, as you said, Mayor.
And I've had a number of calls after me saying, you know, I still couldn't hear or something like that, but again, that's, you know, tweaking the technology.
I do think, to echo your point, we still have a certain population that once we started doing it, that has found the convenience, even if they can't sit and watch it live, they like the ability to go back afterwards when it is conducive and watch it at their time. And even some of our elected body and staff like to go back and say, I want to make sure this was said or done.
I'm in that camp. I've done it for, did I say that? Let me go back and check what I said.
I think ex-councilman Bryant wanted to
Yes,
say
I was
something.
about to call him Mr. Bryant.
Thank you for letting me make a comment. I know that's unusual, not for me, but for you guys to let me. The streaming of the main meetings, and I would include P&Z in that, even though you're not currently streaming it, is extremely beneficial to the residents that may not be able to attend the meeting, may not be able to attend all of the meeting, may not be able to hear everything that's said during the meeting. You got a lot of elder residents, and I have found it extremely helpful to pull up a 2 or 2.5, 3-hour meeting and be able to zoom down to the portion of that meeting that's important to me, my family, my friends, and re-watch it and listen to it, paying close attention to that 15-minute segment. And it's really such a asset to the community, and I hope that now that you've invested in all of this high-tech equipment, that you'll continue to provide that to the community out into the future.
For the feedback.
Well, that leads to the question, what about adding P&Z on? We're doing just a agenda and regular meeting now, what about adding P&Z? Is that possible? I say possible, is that someone's available to operate it during P&Z meetings?
As we go forward with staff, I certainly think it is more likely to be able to do it than we did a year ago. It's just a matter of making it a policy that we do.
Again, I think now that we've invested, Mr. Oxford Whisper got it to this point, I think it's worth, tweaking it, trying to, make it better so that citizens can take advantage of, as Mr. Bryant stated. I mean, not everybody is able to make, a particular meeting, and so it's good to have, I think. So,
Mr. Mayor, would you want to entertain a
absolutely.
motion?
If you wanna,
Well, I'll make a motion then that we continue to stream both our regular meetings, our agenda briefings, and our planning and zoning board meetings for the convenience of the public and their edification and information, so forth.
Would you like to add Board of Adjustment meeting to that as well, or just planning and zoning?
I would say just planning and zoning, but
That's me. I'm inclined to say, but I'll, if somebody wants to do B of A, I wouldn't oppose it. Well, I'll leave the motion in as is.
For the discussion's sakes, I agree, because those, for now, are occurring on a regular basis. And then if they get back to where they don't, then we could revisit, but B of A, we may go a whole quarter and not have one.
Right. Sure. I'll just leave it at agenda briefing, regular meetings, and planning and zoning.
Do you wanna wait till he gets the appropriate staff, or do we wanna add that in the motion?
I think you said that's,
I think
fine?
that's
Okay.
fair.
I think we
Okay.
can go ahead now.
Okay.
I think Andrew can, I've seen him back there, so I presume he can do it at P and Z if he, Mike's.
I'm kidding.
Oh, you, okay, well, that's
No,
good.
I'm kidding, no.
Anyhow, that's my
I
motion.
think between the staff we have, we certainly can do.
okay. Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
I know I, for one, as somebody who recently traveled, would love to have the last P&Z meeting on YouTube, and I will most definitely second this motion.
Motion made, receive the second. Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
The overview of the upcoming council meeting, consent agenda is going down to number 4, annexation request of Red Maple Resources. Project is Rocky Creek is 1.17 acres. It's just simply asking the clerk to investigate. Number 5 is River Rock, Perth Road, application 28.3 acres. I'm sorry, I failed on number 4 to identify the location. Number 4 was 778 South Main Street. That would be at the corner roughly of Barkdale Road and Main Street. Number 6, approval of facade for Troutman Logistics Center, Building 1. Number 7, approval of amendment for Verizon contract for a new antenna. Basically, that information is in your packet. We chose to give all the documentation, which helps explain why this is so thick.
Could've used an extra week.
We did not do that to bombard you with craziness. It is simply to make sure that some council members, other than the mayor and maybe Mayor Pro Tem, it was to explain to all the rest of the council that going back to 2016 timeframe, that applicant actually came to the town and wanted to install their own separate cell tower. And at that time, there were a lot of lawsuits throughout the country, as our attorney Gary Thomas can tell you. And back then, it was suggested by the then council, instead of allowing them to construct their own cell tower or cell towers, why would they not consider just using our existing water towers and then paying a monthly fee to the town to use our water towers as a source for their antenna and or other equipment. So there was an agreement made back then. There has, of course, been a couple modifications to the original contract, which is why you have so much documentation in your packet. I have asked him to get as much documentation as was readily available. For transparency's sakes, anytime there's a modification, it should have went before you, and I simply wanted you all to know whatever history was, instead of it just being me to modify the latest request that comes into an additional $335 per month modification if you all are so inclined to approve. And it was for 2 antenna and 1 other piece of equipment. All of these have went through our engineers, and I did send them back in early summer to Gary just to review, which was basically the suggestion, just make sure the engineers were okay with them, and it was the standard legal Eagle stuff that goes through with those. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you all have them. And again, the contracts and all the history was not to cloud the issue, it was simply to make sure that if you all are gonna serve for the next 29 years like the Mayor Pro Tem, you at least got the history at one lump sum instead of having to go back and ask for it all in your packet. I know back when Councilman Bryant served, he actually logged all of these in order so that he would have a history of this to be easy to find and refer back to. Is that not correct?
Just one question on the updated. I know Mr. Oxer wants to know all the details in terms of specifically how the wiring is gonna be and the railing, and I got it.
I've got some questions.
Yeah, but mine is probably a little bit more rudimentary. I still have people saying, I don't have good cell signal, right? Certain places in our town. Will this help improve? I mean, it's been a couple of years, we're still kind of in this limbo phase of getting some of the updated equipment. Verizon gonna help update the blind spots in the town.
This is supposed to help improve, and of course I can't guarantee. There for a while, I lost cell service right in front of the fairgrounds on Main Street. I couldn't tell you why. This will be the tower that the antennas replaced on Old Murdoch. So it should logically improve that area, but I honestly can't. I'm not the scientist.
Got it.
He is.
But hey, my answer would still be, until it's up and running,
You don't know.
nobody knows.
Okay.
On paper, it could do it.
I can tell you, the chief and I had a recent meeting with the, opposition cell carrier.
Yep.
That tried to tell us they was the best. But then once we pointed out per her map, it was not the best, then she said, well, it is in other areas.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that not the general answer that she gave?
Yeah, okay.
But they came in to tell us they was the best. In Iowa, it was, but not here in Troutman.
Got it.
I do have just one question about the water tower. It's something that I've thought about in the past, and seeing this coming up today just kind of brought it back to the front of my mind. We've done a lot of work with our town logo,
Yes.
right? So just, is there any way that maybe we could just put it on the map? We could update that tower.
I've tried that.
Oh,
Go ahead, go ahead.
I just think what I see, you know, on our new signage, on our new logos, on our shirts, I think it's great branding, and then I see that water tower, like, man, that ore would look
I
good.
just saw the blank Troutman today when I came back to town. And I know, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, we had this conversation about what was gonna be on that tower. And somewhere in the records or somewhere, we actually have a visual of that on the tower, but it's never been done.
It has not been done, and I was on the committee that picked the logo that's on, similar to the logo that's on that shirt, but that logo has actually morphed from the one that was actually approved years ago. The paddle extends beyond the words now versus what was originally approved, and I think this is much more better. But, as former Councilman Bryant can tell you, I'm not certain that some of that came by legitimate means and how we got it. And when we, like the mural that's on the town building, for example, we can certainly contact those folks and see, and that's where our last conversation was, if everybody likes that logo or one similar to it, and get them to price, because they're one of the few companies that does high, and it has a name, of something like that. And get them to give options, but we did, once that building was approved, Mayor Pro Tem asked if that's going on the water towers next, and we'll have 2. But we certainly, and I'll be happy to get up with Emily, because she was the one that got them to craft that building design. And if that's what you all pleasure, we certainly can. But we did not get the, is it JPEGs, Josh? What is the vectors that we should have gotten when we paid for this total art package from that company? So we've had to pay for some of that separately when we go to get artwork done. So we didn't get the vector images of all of that. But yes, I totally agree, and we'll be glad to proceed if you all like.
Yeah, it might be at least worth the conversation to maybe, I know you don't have the vector, but at least maybe look at the hard copy of what we had before on that tower and what we're presenting for the new one, so that we can compare, and then maybe even investigate what's that cost. I mean,
Yes,
I think
sir.
there's some, you know, if it's $100,000, you know, Mr. Oxer might, you know, volunteer to grant that, but it might be a little steep for the town.
Thanks, Sam.
You would probably also need to check with the tank maintenance contract people to make sure that it doesn't violate the contract.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Think
we,
about that.
well,
Probably does not, but
yeah,
It seems like Adam brought that up on the next painting cycle or something, when we talked about it a couple of years ago.
yeah. I think the exterior, we were good trying to do it, but we did just update, I think, that, that tower from the inside, I think it was, out. So it might be good to think to Gary's point, just to understand there's some impact to the tower if we did it.
Just was wondering, do we hold the patent on that logo? Would it be wise for us to maybe see if we could patent our logo? I don't think patents really cost.
Trademark, not patent.
Yeah,
Trademark, thank you. That someone comes along and.
that too has been a question. Probably has not been answered fully, but yeah.
I will follow up on that. Anything else before I move? Then we'll go to the public comment period. Old business is the annexation of Touche. I have not had any updates from anyone on that project. Citizen of the Year nominees, we have not had any new applications that I'm aware of, and not had any new organizations of the year. And just a reminder on that one, there was only one submitted, and that one was not properly submitted. That's up to you all on that. We'll have new business, which is,
So what do you mean by wasn't properly submitted? I was looking at it the other day and just kind of figured, what do you mean by that?
there's an application process for both Citizens of the Year and Organization of the Year. And it basically has got the who, what, where, when, and whys. And that Organization of the Year was not submitted that way.
It just, the first part didn't have the next section added to it, is that what it was?
It was missing information, is the best way I can answer that.
I just recognized, when I was looking at it, because I made myself a note that, I didn't understand what was wrong with it. I didn't see the other one, but, I remember last year we did Troutman Baptist Church. That was last year, and
Yeah,
and I was,
I don't think it was last year.
but it was, we had it on there a year or two ago, and I was
Yeah.
like, so I said, this is Troutman Methodist Church. I wasn't really sure what was actually wrong with that.
I didn't highlight it for this. I just recall when the clerk submitted it to me, she pointed out that it was not proper.
And I guess that's the same with the Citizen of the Year, they didn't have all the paperwork. The other ones, are they citizens of the town? I didn't know that.
I don't think any that we had submitted were citizens of the
Okay,
town.
that's what I was thinking was the issue there.
I don't know that, are they required? I don't think they're required.
I didn't,
Yeah.
No.
I'd at least like to see them within ETJ, members of town or ETJ. They're gonna be Troutman Citizen of the Year. I don't want somebody from Harmony, be Troutman Citizen of the Year.
If they donate $1 million, I might.
Well,
I might
you're talking my language, I can be persuaded. Yes, sir.
So just,
Yes, sir.
We could be influenced.
yeah.
$1 million, we can be in.
But
We're gonna paint that water tower,
Yeah,
right?
maybe there needs to be a note on there. You know?
Influenced.
Yeah.
Number 5 is the rezoning request for applicant, 1.2 acres. Section number 11 is Celeste Dominguez for contiguous. There's a comma there instead of it being a dot for 774,341 acres. Of course, that should be not, and Kim and Lynn can correct what that was actually supposed to be.
Lynn, you got my email on that?
Was that you?
Is that, did it identify me?
Came through as an email, like
Oh,
a text
I see.
message, so it didn't have anything.
I said, boy, that's expanded, that track has expanded since we last talked.
It will be fixed on the final agenda tomorrow morning.
12 is, continual rezoning request of Barium LLC. 13 is consider ordinance amending, the town of Troutman Code of Ordinances for, the ability to address chronic violators. That's something we've talked about several times. If there's any discussions or questions about that, please ask. 14, and Lynn will present that. 14 is consider appointment of Sally Williams to the Town Troutman Design Review Board. Mayor Pro Tem can tell you that board is kind of lean. We need some members on there, of course, to make sure that we have a quorum. And then we'll end with elected officials' reports and comments. I'll be glad to answer any questions to any part of that you all have.
Any questions, comments on the agenda Thursday? I assume the applicants will be here for each of these rezoning and annexation requests.
Yes, sir. I don't know that Ms. Dominguez will appear for herself or somebody will appear on her behalf, but yes.
I hope she comes. All these years I've met her one time. And that was at a charrette over at Randy's place. We were doing that back in 2018. Well, here,
We're good?
I'm very happy with the P and Z department memorandum. I know it took a while, you asked for that a couple minutes ago. But to Eddie's point about this being, these type of things being on his plate, and I think that's one thing that we really need to stress to the public, is like, this is our approach to this. Not necessarily, we're not a dog to be sicked on a property every time that you see trash on it, right? It's like, this group here, right, we're trying to address the core issues, right? And streamline the process, better the process so it's more effective. And so, I'm just wanted to say that. I know that I'd received some emails and just, you know, kind of thinking about it, that's what kind of came to my mind, is that we're starting at the top, right? We're not just going around and trying to sweep up the piles as they come. We're trying to fix the entire process. And so that's what I've tried to express in the emails. I just wanted to take this opportunity to express it and thank everybody that's put in the work to help push this way, and hopefully we can help ease Eddie's inbox a little bit.
well, it's, you know, that's, and here, former Councilman Ryan remembers, you know, we've been trying to add to P and Z, and being that part of that being code enforcement 2 full-time. And we've had part-time, and it's been complaint-driven. Person comes into town, and they're not here that long. And, you know, with our current town manager, he's probably putting in more code enforcement than even our part-timer is. So, you know, with the addition of a full-timer, you know, that's gonna be something that hopefully we'll get better, but that's been a problem for years. You're exactly right, and that's why I am tickled to death to see we are finally going with a full-time code enforcement officer that's here at least 40 hours, if not more, per week to get the job done, because there's a lot to be done. All you gotta do is ride around and it's there. So I'm tickled to death, and you know, once he's got that under control, then obviously he'll be there to help our planners as well. So you know, that's another helping hand for them. So yeah, but it's a problem that, like, again, it's like I said a while ago, things take time. Unfortunately, sometimes they seem to take too long, but we are aware of them and we are working on them. You know, we're not sitting here twiddling our thumbs. As some folks may think.
Thank you. Thank you. Nothing else on our regular agenda. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to general statutes as presented in the agenda 143, 318, 11A4, 11A5, and 11A6 to discuss economic development, discuss acquisition of property, and discuss a personnel matter. So with that, I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion, we go into closed session pursuant to the general statutes listed as you recited.
Motion is made that we go into closed session. Is there a second?
I will second that for you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Who all do we need in the room
Thank you for sending
this time, Mr. Wyatt?
First one, we'll go with economic development, need our town council clerk, Jen Bosser and Chad.
Okay.
I have one question.
Yes.
I'm Brian Holt. I entered a little bit late.
If you
Just
will,
wait
just wait in
outside.
the lobby, and as soon as we're done with those folks, we will get you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Did you get new chairs?
Ma'am?
Got new chairs?
We did, a lot more
They're very
comfy,
nice.
a lot more comfy.
I know.